Okay, so starting off our power rankings at number 32, like always, we have the Carolina Panthers. They're on bye. They're still the only winless team in the NFL. Didn't see any reason to move them up. I don't think they're better than any of these other teams, but we'll see. Coming into week 8, they are playing the Houston Texans, the number 1 versus a number 2 overall pick. Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. That'd be a fun one. But the Carolina Panthers staying down here at number 32 feels like the right move. Number 31, the Las Vegas Raiders moved down a whopping 6 spots. Was not a fan of how they played in Week 7. They really got their butts handed to them by the Chicago Bears. And the Bears, I don't look at the Bears as a great football team. I don't think they're a good football team. But the Raiders just got their butts handed to them by a football team that a lot of people don't think is a very good football team, including myself. Brian Hoyer playing horrible. He threw 3 interceptions in this game, playing one of the worst defenses in the National Football League, and you really struggled to get anything going. You put up 12 points. Really not a good look. So yeah, not really a great look going out there and getting your butt handed to you by a football team, which I don't think is very good. They did have a back quarterback in there, Tyson Bagent. I mean, and Justin Fields really that great. We haven't seen much from him. I thought Fields was having a really nice stretch until he got hurt there. Really, the Bears just look much better, and that's a bit concerning if you're the Raiders. Josh McDaniels is definitely on the hot seat. He's definitely going to be gone after this year, most likely. I say, man, just start Aiden O'Connell the rest of the season. See what you got with him, because you're not going anywhere. And of course, that defense looking absolutely horrible. Tyson Bagent, give your flowers, give the credits to Tyson Bagent, though. All right, number 30, the Arizona Cardinals moved down 4 spots. A good hard-fought game versus Seattle Seahawks divisional opponent. I just moved them down to 30 because they're on a losing streak. They're losing football games, and that's how the power rankings go. It doesn't it kind of does matter. The resume, how close are you playing games, but I feel like it was a hard fought game. They were up 10-7 at one point, and then the Seahawks really just put it away towards the end there. Seahawks won 20-10. At the end of the day, and the Cardinals are on a pretty massive losing streak. They lost 4 games in a row, and Niners, Bengals, Rams, Seahawks. Those are not bad opponents whatsoever. Those are all very good opponents, but you're still losing 4 in a row, and then you lost in that big comeback versus the Giants. That was early on in the season. You lost the Commanders. You really are not looking good. You're losing 4 games in a row, so you're going to move all the way down here to number 30. Now, number 29, I have the Green Bay Packers. They moved down 6 spots. This Green Bay Packers football team is not looking very good. I'm not too impressed with Jordan Love. I'm not impressed with this offense and this team in general. I'm just not happy how they're playing. The offensive line is inconsistent. You're making big time mistakes and shooting yourself in the foot here and there, and that's not how you're going to win football games, especially the way they're playing. You can't really stop the run. You can't really get anything going offensively. You just played the Denver Broncos, and you should, I feel like that's a matchup that they should have won. But going into that game, I kind of had that feeling to myself that, I don't think it really matters what kind of defense Jordan Love plays. I don't think playing a really bad defense is going to make him better. I just think Jordan Love is that kind of quarterback. It's just some games he's just going to play really well, and then there's going to be some games where he plays horrible. It doesn't really matter the defense he plays. That's just the kind of player I see in Jordan Love. He's not a good decision maker. His ball placement is pretty bad. Doesn't process the field well. I'm not a fan of his pocket presence. I'm just not a fan of Jordan Love at all. He started the season off hot. It was looking like he was, playing pretty well, and then he really cooled off. Tape got out, and as the season goes on, teams know how to plan for you and game plan for offenses, and they have tendencies and all that stuff. And Matt LaFleur, I don't think he's been a great coach so far either. And, just having guys injured, and then, having your best players making big time mistakes like Elton Jenkins, Jordan Love, on that quarterback draw, you kind of trying to get in range and field goal range, you're a couple yards short. And then you have a holding, and then it's a much longer field position to go. It's just not a good look. You lose to a Denver Broncos team who's been historically bad in defense, still couldn't get any offense going. It seems like the same script, just a different day, just a different week, unfortunately. And the Packers are all the way down here at 29. Not a good football team. They can't get anything done. Very uninspiring to watch. If this is one of the offenses that I want to shy away from watching because it's just that inconsistent. It's that difficult to watch at times. Number 28, you have the Denver Broncos. They move up 2 spots. They only move up 2 spots because the other teams around them have loss, and they did beat the Packers, but that doesn't mean I always take the head-to-head matchup. I just think that the Denver Broncos are actually playing like the better team than the Packers. Obviously they did just beat them this weekend. Now their defense isn't great, but they played a quarterback that it doesn't really matter what defense he plays. He's usually gonna suck either way. Jordan Love just isn't that guy, and you do have a slew of weapons. You have Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, but you're still kind of lacking that one guy to step up and really be the guy in a big situation. And this Denver Broncos team, hey, they did what they had to do, even though towards the end there, they allowed the Packers to get some momentum, and Jordan Love was getting going late in the game a little bit. Still couldn't do it. At the end of the game there, the Broncos, they put it away, interception. So the Broncos move up 2 spots. You win, you're going to move up, and if you lose bad games, you're going to you're going to move down a lot. Number 27, Tennessee Titans moved down 1 spot. So the Titans, man, they're on bye week, right? But other teams, I just felt other teams, it's just the way the board fell. They moved down 1. Number 26, you have the New York Football Giants. The Giants have actually been pretty impressive this last couple of weeks. And I know still 14 points this week and 10 last week is not very impressive. But they really put up a good fight against the Buffalo Bills team last week, which, they did just lose to the Patriots this week. So maybe the Bills are really question marks in the Bills. But, hey, I will still say this defense has been impressive. You play the Bills 1 week ago, and you did pretty good against Stephon Diggs. Deonte Banks has been absolutely phenomenal. Did a very good job, this defense in general. I've noticed they've been calling a little more zone than they usually do, and that's what they need to do because man coverage isn't really it. But Deonte Banks is actually killing it in man coverage. Trey Hawkins seems to be playing a little better. It seems like this Giants defense is starting to come alive. Now the offense is still where a lot of the question marks and a lot of the issues arise. Do you have that receiver, that one guy that can continue to step up consistently? Not sure. You do have Darren Waller, who came alive versus the Commanders. He caught that really nice touchdown pass. It was against a cover 2 shell. There were a couple guys around him. Darren Waller was just bigger, so he caught it, and that was a really nice throw from Tyrod Taylor. Really good awareness, and it's that experience kicking in. And it seems like that offense is just more fluid and more, I don't know, it's just a better oiled machine with Tyrod Taylor in there than Daniel Jones. It just seems Daniel Jones isn't a great processor. I don't know. I just feel like that offense is a little better with Tyrod Taylor in there. That's what I have felt over the past 2 weeks when Tyrod playing versus the Bills and the Commanders. Now I know the Bills and the Commanders, the Bills have a really good defense and the Commanders don't have a great one, but I still feel like there's just a little, the offense just feels more smooth. It just feels a little more consistent. Even though they're not putting up a ton of points, the offense just feels better. It just has that feeling of a better offense since Tyrod Taylor has taken over and played. Saquon Barkley had a good day. The defense, like I said, the defense has been playing phenomenal. They've been playing lights out. They played the Bills, and then they allowed 15 to the Bills. I believe in the next week you allowed only 7 points to the Commanders. And you have Sam Howell. I really like Sam Howell, but, they really got to him, mixing it up, calling some zone, blitzing them, really making and speeding up Sam Howell's clock. That he has to get the ball out. And they did a very good job because the Commanders have some serious weapons too. So that's no light task on defense. The Commanders have found ways to put up points on everybody for the most part, and then the Giants really came in and said not on. The Bills also getting a tough time as well, but in general, I've been really impressed with the Giants for the last couple of weeks. Now I don't think they're a great football team. I still think they're a good football team, but they've been a lot better than they have been to start the season. All right, next up you have the Chicago Bears moving up 3 spots, number 25. I think this is where the Bears started the season, so this is their second time coming out of the top 26. They're actually in top 25, and all right, they've been impressing me a little bit. I really liked what I saw from Tyson Bagent versus the Raiders. Now, the Raiders do have one of the worst defenses in the NFL, if it's not the worst, but yeah, I was still really impressed coming from a small school, very little experience, and even the defense is, even though the defense isn't great that you're playing, you're still coming in, you're still looking like a pretty good quarterback, and I was really impressed with Tyson Bagent. I thought he was throwing the ball really well. The Bears were able to run the ball really well with Dante Foreman. The defense only allowed the Raiders to 12 points, and that Raiders offense, they have playmakers. It's not like they don't. Now the leader of that offense hasn't been Jimmy G. The leader of the Raiders offense has not been good. I would rather Aiden O'Connell over Brian Hoyer, and why not just play Aiden O'Connell there while you have you're not really going anywhere as is this year, so it's not like you're losing anything. And if you get a higher draft pick, great. you get a better draft pick. That's not always the case for the Raiders though. They always screw up their higher draft picks. But I've been really impressed with the Bears. I have been. I've seen a lot of good things from the Bears lately, and I don't think they're, I still don't think they're a good football team, but they've been better than they have been to start the season. You're seeing some teams playing a little better since the start of the season. Sometimes it's all it takes is a couple of games for them to start to get a little bit. But the New England Patriots, speaking of teams that really have had a bad couple weeks lately, and then now they really put on a show against the division rival, the Buffalo Bills. All the rumblings about Bill Belichick being on the hot seat. Bill Belichick gets his 300th win, and somehow they go in there and they beat Buffalo. They did what they had to do. They beat a division rival, and when you beat one of the better teams in the NFL, one of the better teams on my power rankings list, you are going to move up quite a bit. Now, how quality of it's really in question how quality of a win it is right now because the Giants kept it close. The Giants almost beat them, if not for a couple mishaps on the goal line. Twice. At the end of both halves, the Bills were fortunate, and then you have the Patriots. The Patriots just beat them. Now that's a divisional matchup that's a little different in my opinion. They know each other really, really well. Just as well as division rivals tend to just know each other really well, much more than on the other team. But the Patriots, they find a way to beat the Bills, and it seemed like they got the run game going. Mac Jones looked a little bit better. It seemed like this team had a fire lit under them. The defense looked really good. And when this defense is healthy, it is a good defense. It's just we got to see if they could continue it going. Can they? I don't know. This could be a team that beats teams that they shouldn't, or maybe this could just be one of those games you look back on and it's like, huh? How did that happen? Yeah, but hey, if you're going to beat one of the better teams in the league in convincing fashion like the Patriots did, you are going to move up 7 spots. The Indianapolis Colts moved down 1 spot. Big shootout versus the Cleveland Browns. No one really expected it. And Gardner Minshew being a backup quarterback, having 4 turnovers. That's not good for the offense. But, on the other hand, the defense didn't look great. Although the offense didn't put the defense in good positions at all game long. It was very pathetic at the way, it was so impressive to put up 38 points when you turn the ball over 4 times and you just played one of the best defense in the NFL, if not the best. It seemed like Jonathan Taylor was back and, the offensive line is playing at a high level, so the Colts, but they still lose, and everyone's going to point towards the refs. That's going to be the first thing that Colts fans are going to point towards the refs, and a lot of fans will be saying this weekend. But honestly, I don't. The Colts had other chances. They had a field goal block. Gardner Minshew fumbled, and the Browns recovered for 6. So that's a 10-point difference right there. It's not always the refs. There's a lot more that happens in a game that leads to the result of a team losing or winning, not just would the Colts have won if they didn't call that illegal contact on Darrell Baker? Yes, because that was a fumble recovery. But there are other points in the game where the Colts missed opportunities, but that would have been the one that would have erased all of it, but it didn't. And you're not always going to get bailed out the way you want to, and you didn't there. The Browns. I don't not usually one to come in here and complain about the refs, but that was a really bad game for the refs. They were really bad all weekend long for many teams. They were really bad for the Dolphins and Eagles game as well. Number 22. Commanders moved down 3 spots. Very disappointing. Wait, hold on. Who did they play? I'm blanking. The Commanders, they played. I'm blanking. Okay, they played the New York Giants. I had to pause in a second and go look. Even though I was talking about the Giants earlier in the Commanders, I still forgot. But the Washington Commanders, really disappointing loss versus the New York Football Giants. You have weapons. You have some good, some firepower in offense. But when you can't protect, that's what really makes a difference. And that was a theme throughout the whole game with the Giants and the Washington football team, or the Washington Commanders. When you just cannot, when you can't protect your quarterback and there's pass rush all day long, nonstop, it's really difficult to score points and really difficult to get anything going. Top of that, the Giants do have some pretty good cornerbacks. It seems like they're starting to get some experience and they're starting to gain some steam. But, all in all, it was a very disappointing loss. You only put up 7 points, and, it was a very disappointing divisional loss. They weren't even really able to run the ball well, which, the Giants have a really good, they do have a good defense line. It's difficult to run against them when their defense line is going, but just all in all, a really disappointing loss for the Commanders. A team that, I think is much better than this. They just didn't play like it, and then next week they are playing the Washington Commanders, or the Commanders are playing the Philadelphia Eagles, not the Commanders. They're the Commanders, but they're playing the Eagles. That's a tough matchup, and just losing to the Giants the way they did this week, I don't really have much faith in them. But hey, I guess we'll see. You know, they had a nice start to the season, kind of tailed off since then. I still think Sam Howell is playing good football. It's just, you know, when you're getting hit and sacked 5 to 7 times a game, it's really difficult to get anything going. All right, the Minnesota Vikings move up 3 spots to 21. You should argue they should move up more. But the Vikings are a very interesting team, and I'm not ready to overreact. They did just win 2 games in a row. They have been very impressive. You know, they did just beat the Niners, which was consensus number 1 prior to last weekend. Prior to this weekend, that just happened. They were mainly consensus number 1. A lot of people had them number 1. I had Lions number 1 last week, and I gave them a chance, and it was short-lived. But the Minnesota Vikings, I'm not going to overreact because the Viking team, I mean, Kirk Cousins is great. I love Kirk Cousins, and I think he's entering the MVP race. He should be in the MVP race. It's just the only thing that's kind of holding him back from that is, you know, he's had a lot of turnovers. He's got to stop fumbling. But yesterday in prime time, he actually looked really well. He beat the consensus, one of the better teams in the NFL. I still think the Niners are one of the more dominant teams in the NFL. They're just having a little rough up. They're just having a little, what do you call it? I don't really know what you call it. A slump. You know, the Niners are just in a slump. But hey, you know, you still can't take the credit away from the Vikings. They did a very good job against them last week on Monday night. You know, Brock Purdy still had a pretty good game. He was 21 to 30, 272 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions isn't great. But, I mean, he seems like he's in a slump. Christian McCaffrey, they did very good against the run game and Christian McCaffrey. But it seems like Jordan Addison has stopped up. And really, if you look at the Vikings schedule over the next couple of weeks, they can really shoot themselves off this power rank. They're playing the Packers, the Falcons, the Saints, the Broncos, the Bears, the Raiders, the Bengals, and the Vikings. That is their remaining schedule, which is not bad whatsoever. This Vikings team can really make a run to maybe secure a wild card spot. And if Kirk Cousins can continue to play the way he has been playing, I've been so impressed with Kirk Cousins. I think this Vikings team can really continue to rise up these power rankings. It's one of those teams, you know, you always have that one team in the NFL where they kind of emerge out of the weeds, and it seems like the Minnesota Vikings could be that football team. And the Minnesota Vikings, but I'm not going to overreact yet, although they do have a very easy schedule, so I'm pretty sure I will be moving them up, but there's no such thing as an easy schedule. You know, you may have opponents that are a little easier to play against, but you still got to put in the same amount of work and work just as hard every single week. And no game is given. It's any given Sunday. As we saw this last weekend, the Browns and the Colts put up 77 points. The Vikings just beat the 49ers. The Patriots beat the Bills. Point proven. But I'm not going to overreact yet. I am liking what I saw. You know, the defense has been starting to look a little bit better, and you know, it's not like they didn't play anybody. So really impressed with the Vikings over the last 2 weeks. Can they continue to keep it going? And if they do, they will rise up. Maybe they should be up a little bit more. A lot will probably argue they should be up a lot more considering they just beat the Niners. You know, I just made a really good case for the Patriots. We moved out 7 spots, but there's just a few other teams that have a little bit better of a resume. They've been playing a little bit better. So, but the Vikings here at 21. Number 20, New York Football Jets. They're here at 20. They're on the bye week. Don't see any reason to move them. Number 19, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They had a really nice start to the season, but now not looking as good. You know, I still really like the defense. They just have not been able to regain that, you know, that mojo before the bye week. You know, it seems like since the bye week, they haven't really been the same. You got beat by the Lions pretty good last week, and then this week it was a pretty close game with the Falcons, but a really disappointing loss in my opinion. I'm not a huge fan of Denver, and you know, really, it seemed like that both of these teams were really moving the ball a lot. There's just a lot of turnovers, a lot of things going back and forth, and you know, it felt like both teams were moving the ball pretty well in this game. You know, I thought the Buccaneers ran the ball pretty good for once because they haven't been great running the football, but I thought they actually ran the ball okay. No, never mind. I'm very wrong. But they did have a few big runs in there, which I usually don't have. So, but hey, the Buccaneers moving down 2 spots because very disappointing loss to the Falcons. You really, you know, down the stretch there, Baker Mayfield throws an interception that ends the game. I mean, still a very disappointing loss. You had a chance to go and win this one, and you couldn't. So, the Buccaneers here at 19. Next up at number 18, you have the New Orleans Saints. They really put up a fight in that second half versus the Jaguars. They tied it up at one point on Thursday night, but kind of the issue is they're too inconsistent. The red zone offense is horrible. Derek Carr is too inconsistent. Seems like Alvin Kamara, and they've been really to run the ball really well. And a lot of the offense seems like it does go through Alvin Kamara. And now considering some things that are going on, Chris Olave now, he may be missing an extended period of time. That could be quite concerning for this offense. But hey, we will see. They have a pretty favorable matchup going into Indianapolis this weekend. So can they pull it off there? They might be able to. They should be able to. But it will be a good game. That game's kind of a toss-up. We'll see who wins that game. But I didn't really feel the need to move them. I thought they played a really good game versus the Jaguars. Jaguars just found a way to finish it off. But the Saints do need to find some consistency. They are fortunate I didn't move them down here. I just feel like they belong here at 18. The Atlanta Falcons move up 4 spots to number 17. So the Atlanta Falcons, they find a way. They find a way. They push through and they do beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A really good defense. Granted, they only scored 16 points, but they did what they had to do. The defense had the interception down. The defense had the interception late in the game to seal it off, and the defense looked pretty good. The defense has struggled. The defense has struggled at times, but I was impressed that the Falcons were able to take this one home. I did not think they were going to be able to score enough points to win this one, but they were able to score more than the Buccaneers. Buccaneers couldn't score a lot. They did good against Baker Mayfield for the most part. They did actually do pretty good against the run game, but. Yeah, the Falcons move up 4 spots. Maybe that's a little bit generous, but it's just the way the board fell. Falcons moving up 4 spots, number 17. 16, the Los Angeles Chargers. They are moved down 1 spot. The Chargers, man, they're so confusing, and they did put up a fight there with the Patriots or with the Chiefs there for a little while. They caught up. They made the game close, but other than that, they couldn't really do too much more. That Chiefs defense, they couldn't really do much in that Chiefs defense, which, that defense is pretty good. Although I will say the Chargers, Justin Herbert is playing with a broken finger, I think he is. But, at the end of the day, you still got to find a way to win. And it's, it's not easy. I'm sitting here talking about them. But, at the end of the day, you kind of got to try and figure out how to get some things going. The offense really struggled a bit. They did have a few bright moments, but it wasn't enough. And you take a very difficult, very bad loss to a bad Chiefs team. And that defense wasn't looking pretty good. The Chargers defense is one of the worst in the league, and I thought they've been better against the run for the most part. But then the passing defense, yeah, this felt like the first game that Patrick Mahomes really got going, and yeah, considering it happened against you and not the Broncos the week previously, is pretty disappointing. But the Chargers only moved down 1 spot. They did play a very good Chiefs team, and I still feel like they're better than some of the teams that are behind them. Number 15, the Los Angeles Rams moved down 2 spots. Very disappointing outing versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Matthew Stafford throwing the interception to start that second half really kind of set the tone of that second half. The offense line is horrible. And it makes it very difficult to get any offense going, to get the offense going consistently. And that's what happened this game. The Steelers got a couple turnovers, and the Steelers, they just, you could argue towards the end of that game, that was a horrible call. But really, you were up by 7 at one point, and, the Rams were playing pretty well, and then you threw the interception. So there's other points where you lost this football game, but I thought the spotting was really bad, and it really did favor the Steelers. But it is what it is. The Steelers won, and they found a way to do it. A 7-point win for the Steelers, so it is what it is. And hopefully this Rams offense is going to struggle versus the better defensive lines, really. The better defenses, because, they can't protect. They can't do anything. They can't block anybody, so that's a big issue. Matthew Stafford can't really move. He's not really one of those faster quarterbacks, so kind of stuck getting beat up all day long. And, he is already injury prone, so hopefully he can continue to stay healthy. But the Rams, middle-of-the-road team to me so far this year. We're 14 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They move up 2 spots. Steelers, man, they just been like, this is one of those teams that is starting out pretty well. Their record is better than it should be. They're not winning games by a lot of points. A lot of their games have been decided by 1 score or less, and that is not sustainable. It is very rare you see a team continue to win those games. Like the Vikings last year, they somehow found a way. But the Steelers, so when they're playing mediocre football teams, they're keeping it close, or they're winning, and they're winning by 7. They beat the Browns by 4. They beat the Raiders by 6, or 5. They beat the Raiders by 5. They beat the Ravens by 7. And, it's a lot of defensive plays like TJ Watt setting up the offense to be closer. That really helped. I mean, you can't take that away from them, but you can't win like this forever. You can't win with just the defense scoring points for you. You can't win by relying on the defense to set you up in good field position constantly. You cannot rely on that. It will not happen when you play some of the better, more complete teams when they played the Ravens, the 49ers. Never mind, they beat the Ravens, so I don't know why I said that. But when you play a complete team like the Niners, you lost 30-7. That's what's going to happen. And then, teams like the Texans, you did lose to the Texans. They have a really good offense. When you look at the rest of the teams, I mean, the Niners have a really good offense. The Browns' offense is but the Browns and the Niners' defense are really good. It's just, I don't think the way the Steelers are winning, it's not sustainable. It's not a way to consistently win games. It's going to catch up with them once. Sooner or later it's going to catch up with them. Kenny Pickett, although late game heroics, George Pickens and him with that back shoulder is absolutely phenomenal. It's a beauty. You love seeing it because it's very difficult to do. But Kenny Pickett and George Pickens have that pat down, that little shoulder fade. It's so much fun to watch. But it's kind of all you got. You kind of have receivers that struggle to go open. They're inconsistent. George Pickens is great though. I love George Pickens. I like Deontay Johnson, but ultimately your offensive line is really bad. And you can't get the running game going. You're really, really relying on that defense to put you up and set you up in good positions to score any points at all. Number 13, Houston Texans. They only move up one spot. They were on the bye week. Don't feel like they should be moved anymore. It's just the way the board fell that they, that's why they moved a spot. So Texans moving up one spot. Not too much to say about them because they didn't play a game. Very similar situation for the Cincinnati Bengals. They didn't play. They're on a bye, so they're staying put. Number 11, the Buffalo Bills moved down 6 spots. Yeah, that was pretty embarrassing, Buffalo. Josh Allen, that was pretty embarrassing. Although I will say I did see Josh Allen making some nice plays. But didn't make enough. This team didn't get it done. You're supposed to be one of the better teams in the league. And you lose to a team that is historically bad for their franchise, for who they are. Bill Belichick looking for his 300th career win. Bill Belichick in the hot seat. Divisional game. I mean, you walked right into the trap. You walked right into it, and you let them keep you. You let them keep you. And, the rest of this football team is very inconsistent. This entire football team is so inconsistent. And, I'm a little worried about them. It was a very close game between them and the Giants last week as well. They struggled to get any offense going then. The defense did what they had to do. The defense won the game versus the Giants, but, Josh Allen, they couldn't really, they didn't look great versus the Giants. That game shouldn't have been that close. And then you play a team I had at 31, and they beat you. And they beat you pretty good, too. It seemed like they ran the ball well. The Bills couldn't really get the ball going. They couldn't really get the run game going. Very interesting for for how the Bills have played. They're very inconsistent. When they're on, they're one of the best teams in the league, if not the best. They have those games where they're like so dominant and you can't beat them. Like the Dolphins, they beat 48-20. And then the Patriots used 29-22, something like that. And then, the Giants, it was 15-10. They're so inconsistent. They have to get things figured out and find a way, and figure out how to do what they need to do week in and week out. Have not been able to. Number 10, Seattle Seahawks. You beat up on a Cardinals team. It was, the Cardinals gave you a good fight. They were beating you at one point. They had to lead at one point, 10-7, I believe it was. But ultimately, you did what you had to do. You won the game. You put it away at the end. Good stuff. Didn't really feel the need to move them up or down. So, they're stuck at 10. Number 9, Dallas Cowboys. They were on bye week, so not too much to really talk about them there. They're going to stay put. Number 8, the Cleveland Browns. Now, the Cleveland Browns, they're a weird team, too. Like, this year, I don't feel like there is that one dominant football team. I just don't see it. we thought the Niners were. Maybe they're just in a rut. Maybe they will, they're in the slump. Can they figure it out soon? The Dolphins look dominant at sometimes, but now they look beatable. They struggle versus certain opponents. It depends on the matchup. The Bills at one point looked like the most dominant team. Then it's very confusing. The Eagles are really good at sometimes, but then they're inconsistent. You got the Chiefs, they're really good at sometimes, but then they're kind of inconsistent. It's very puzzling, very confusing. The Lions at one point, I had them at one last week. Very short-lived. But the Cleveland Browns, you allowed 17 points to the 49ers, who have been scoring 30-plus prior to that game. And then you allow the Colts to score 38. And that defense has been one of the best in the league. Then you allow Gardner Minshew, who turned the ball over 4 times. Yet, the Colts still scored 38 points. It's so confusing. This season is so confusing. But I don't really feel the need to move the Browns. It's a team they should have beaten. They almost lost to them. But the Browns are staying at 8. I don't feel the need to move them down, to move them up. They find a way to win when they weren't playing their best, then credit to them. Credit to them. Number 7, Detroit Lions. You guys disappointed me. They disappointed me, man. Although I was, when I predicted that game, I'm like, watch the Ravens pull this one off. Watch them win this football game. The Lions are riding high. They didn't lose a game since week 2. They beat the Chiefs in week 1. They have a big winning streak, and they're kind of, where they kind of due for a loss. I don't really believe in really being due for a loss, but at the same time, now you really played a different football team than you've played. You play the Ravens, who, they're very inconsistent themselves. I don't understand the Ravens. I don't understand a lot of the NFL right now. It's very confusing. Very confusing, but Jared Goff didn't look good. The offense was very bad. The defense really struggled yesterday. You allowed 38 points and you only scored 6. It was a rough day, and because of that, you're moving down 6 spots, all the way to 7 from 1. So, Lions fans, I hope you enjoyed being at number 1 for 1 week. At least you got some time up there. Hey, maybe you'll get back up there sometime before the end of the season. I don't know. We'll see. But you got to find a way to be consistent. You find a way to keep on going. Number 6, Miami Dolphins. They moved down 2 spots. A bad matchup for them against the Philadelphia Eagles. And a lot of people are complaining about the penalties. And, yeah, the penalties were really bad, as they were in the Browns and Colts game, as they were in a few other games. The penalties were horrible. But at the end of the day, you did lose by 2 possessions. You couldn't stop the run. You kept lining up in the neutral zone. So, I just didn't think it was a really good matchup for the Dolphins. I was going into that game predicting that the Eagles will win that game because they'll get the run game going, and the Dolphins' defense is not great, and that is exactly what happened. Even though and another thing to think about here is the Dolphins scored 10 points offensively. Remember, they had a pick 6. I think Jerome Baker had a pick 6, so you still only scored 10 points offensively. So I don't get why you can blame the refs too much. And, teams are going to get points off the defense once in a while, and it's a part of the game, and you can't really take that away from them. But you also have to realize that, it's not a consistent way to win. That's not the way to win games, is by scoring defensive touchdowns. Your offense has got to do that scoring. Your offense has to get that done. And they did only score 10 offensive points versus the Eagles, so would the penalties have made that much of a difference on? So, they lost by 2 possessions. And at one point it was really close, and some of the penalties were horrible. They really were. But at the end of the day, you can't blame the refs, because there were a lot of things that the Dolphins did in that game that, that caused them to lose. So they moved on 2 spots, number 6. The San Francisco 49ers, as I was mentioning, man, this team has been number 1 for a lot of people for most of the year, if not all of it, up until now. It's just, you're looking so dominant. You killed the Cowboys. You killed a few other teams. At one point, the Cowboys were up there at 1-2 for me. The Dolphins were up there at 1-2 and 3 for me. The Niners were at 1-2 or 3. The Bills were up there. It's such a weird season, man. Like, there's not that one team that is just that dominant. And the Niners,
How? Like what is going on? You lose to the Browns, fine. You had a bad game. You missed a game-winning field goal, fine. You lost to the Browns, bounce back next week versus the Vikings. You lose versus the Vikings. They probably should be moved down more spots, but they do have a good resume. They have killed a lot of the teams that they have played, so that's why they're not getting that's why they're not getting pushed down as much as like the Bills or the Lions, because they have a really good resume, and I still really believe that they have that good of a football team. Now, I'm not really predicting there either by saying they still have a good football team. It's just they have a good resume. They have a really good resume. They did lose 2 in a row, so if they start, if they lose another one, they're gonna be moving down 6-7 spots. They're gonna move. They're really gonna be moving down that far, but yeah, hopefully they'll get out of this slump. That offensive line, especially the interior, has not looked great. So the Niners are gonna have to get it figured out. Number 4, Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, I don't think the Jaguars are a dominant team, but like I've said so many times in this video, I don't think there's that one dominant team in the NFL. It's really weird. It's really odd. It's really confusing. It's really weird. We don't normally, we normally have 1, 2, or 3 really dominant football teams, and we really don't have that this year. I don't even know if we have one. All these teams are so inconsistent this year. Every single one of them. But the Jaguars moving at 3 stops to 4, you really dominating the Saints at one point, and then you let the Saints crawl back into it, but you do end up putting that game away. Impressive, good stuff, but this Jaguars team is so inconsistent, and we saw it in that football game. They have games where their defense looks elite. It's one of the best of the best, and then they have games where it looks horrible, like versus the Texans. It looked like one of the worst defenses in the NFL, and then you have a couple games versus the Chiefs, you only allow 17, and it's just so confusing. I don't understand it. But yeah, they're moving up 3 spots because they won, and other teams are just losing that should move down. It's a very weird year. Number 3, you have the Baltimore Ravens, and I think the Ravens are kind of in the same boat. They're very inconsistent. They lost to teams like the Colts, the Steelers, and you could argue that their resume does not deserve a top 5 pick or a top 5 spot. But they put so much of a beating on the Lions. How could you put them behind the Niners, who just got beat by the Niners? The Niners who got beat by the Niners, really, JDW. The Niners who got beat by the Vikings. Dolphins that just get beat by the Eagles. And and the Dolphins got dominated by the Bills when they played the Bills. Now the Lions got dominated by the Ravens. And they were number 1 on my list. So that has to hold some weight that the Lions were number 1 and the Ravens absolutely killed them. It's such a confusing season. It really is. And then you have the Eagles at 2. Because normally, there probably wouldn't be this much movement in the top of my power rankings. Because I don't think it really makes sense to move a lot in the top. But like I said, I don't think there's that one team. That's just that team. That's just him. All of them have their flaws. And there may be one dominant team in the NFL. And they're at 1. Number 2, Philadelphia Eagles. So, the Eagles have been very inconsistent. But they did just beat up on a really good Dolphins team. The defense looked really good. They stepped up. They only allowed 10 offensive points. I was really happy with that. I was really happy with their performance versus the Dolphins. They really impressed me. They only allowed 10 offensive points. One was a pick 6, and Jalen Hurts will have to continue to get better and to improve himself because he's still through pick 6. Pick 6. He still was panicking. He was still making quite a few mistakes out there, I thought. And you saw them get that running game going, and then voila, Jalen Hurts looks great. He looked very good. But the Eagles, they beat a very good Dolphins team, and they did it very convincingly. So they're moving up 4 spots to 2. Number 1. This is the best football team in the NFL right now. It's not even close. And well, you could say it's close, but I don't think I don't think it's that close. The Chiefs have one of the best defenses in the NFL. It's really that good. They're definitely top 10. Maybe not one of the best, but it's a very good defense. They're definitely a top 10 defense. And a lot of people don't think the Chiefs are as good as they usually are because their offense isn't great, but they're just playing really good defense. They're playing a different way than people than people know the Chiefs as. The people know the Chiefs as a high flying 34, 35, 40 plus points a game. They haven't really been that. Their defense has been great. Their defense has been really good. It was very good versus the Chargers. A very good quarterback in Justin Herbert. You got Keenan Allen. You got Joshua Palmer. I really like Austin Eckler. I think he got hurt though again. The offensive line for the Chargers isn't consistent, but I think the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL right now. You have the best quarterback in the league, and that is what is really helping you out here. This is really helping you out here, big time. And it's keeping your offense the Chiefs' offense is still really good, and it feels like Rashee Rice is starting to be a guy that's stepping up. So the Chiefs belong at number 1. They are the number 1 team in the NFL currently. And they're the only team that. No, I can't say the only. But I absolutely do believe that the Chiefs are the number 1 team in the NFL right now. It's tough. It really is because, like I've said so many freaking times in this video, there is so many teams that are just really good, but really inconsistent. It's tough. It's weird. We're used to seeing 1, 2, or 3 teams that are really dominant. We just haven't seen that. But yeah, guys, that's going to do it for my power rankings. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I appreciate you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, enjoyed our power rankings. Give me your thoughts, questions, comments, concerns down in the comments below. If you enjoyed, like, comment, subscribe, put that post notification bell on if you want to see future videos. This is the JDW Sports Talk Show. I'm signing off.